You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
Good evening. An illegal appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next step.
Tiffany Henyard, long known for grabbing the spotlight, may finally be in over her head. Rumors swirl that the self-proclaimed super mayor is quietly negotiating with the FBI to avoid a one-way trip to a cell. Could this be her last-ditch effort to escape the fate closing in? Word on the street suggests Henyard has realized her reign is nearing its end, and she might be aiming to take others down with her. But here's the twist. It's not just Henyard in hot water. The fallout from her actions could extend far beyond her, potentially ensnaring others who thought they were safe.
Ben Bradley continues his exclusive reporting from Dolton.
So, how did we get here? It's been a wild ride with Tiffany Henyard at the helm of Dolton, Illinois, a small village that's found itself in the eye of a storm filled with corruption, mismanagement, and betrayal. Just a few months ago, Henyard was riding high, seemingly untouchable as both the mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township. She crafted an image of a super mayor dedicated to cleaning up the village. But as it turns out, she may have been doing some cleaning up in ways no one expected.
For a year now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard, but we only knew half the story.
Now, sources close to the situation whisper that Henyard has been quietly negotiating with the feds, trying to cut a deal to avoid being dragged into court. The craziest part, she might be ready to sell out her allies, the very people who helped build her empire. These are the ones who, until recently, stood by her side, backing her every move. It appears Henyard's loyalty only stretches so far, and with the walls closing in, she's willing to throw anyone under the bus if it means saving herself.
But it saddens my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big bingo.
The talk of the town is that Henyard's legal team, two high-powered criminal defense attorneys who have represented big names, are working overtime to secure her the best deal possible. But what does this mean for her inner circle? The same people who helped her pull off what some call one of the most audacious power grabs in local politics are now looking over their shoulders, wondering if they're next on the chopping block.
Well, Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Henyard's rise to power wasn't a solo act. She had a cast of characters working behind the scenes. Among them was Keith Freeman, once Henyard's closest ally, her right-hand man in Dolton, and her trusted advisor in Thornton Township. Together, they ran the village with an iron grip. Freeman, a former village administrator and the registered agent of Henyard's controversial charity, played a crucial role in helping her maintain control over Dolton's finances. But now, it appears Freeman's loyalty has wavered, and he may no longer be standing by Henyard's side.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
Henyard's ascent to power wasn't a solo journey. She had a team working behind the scenes. Take Keith Freeman, for instance. Once her closest ally, he was her right-hand man in Dolton and a trusted advisor in Thornton Township. Together, they held the village in a firm grip. As a former village administrator and the registered agent of Henyard's controversial charity, Freeman was instrumental in managing Dolton's finances. But now, it seems Freeman's loyalty has shifted, and he may no longer be in Henyard's corner.
You know, wrong is wrong, and there's a time to hold people responsible and accountable for their actions.
Then there's Ella Lacey, the former deputy police chief of Dolton, and another key figure in Henyard's circle. Lacey was no stranger to controversy. He was charged with bankruptcy fraud, much like Freeman. Yet that didn't stop Henyard from reappointing him to lead the police department, despite protests from village trustees. Lacey's appointment was another sign of Henyard's defiance, her determination to retain control at any cost. But just like Freeman, Lacey's loyalty to Henyard began to waver when the feds came knocking.
Coming in, I mean, unfortunately, we knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. So, but like I said,
Lacey is now caught in the crosshairs of the federal investigation, and some believe he could be just another pawn in Henyard's game of survival. His name has been linked to questionable overtime payouts, with reports showing he raked in over $200,000 in overtime pay, despite not being eligible. The timing of these payouts has raised eyebrows, sparking suspicions that they were part of a larger scheme orchestrated by Henyard. But now, facing serious legal trouble himself, Lacey may be looking to strike a deal of his own to save himself.
The township residents are paying for her fund.
The scandal doesn't end there. Henyard's former assistant-turned-trustee, Carmen Carlisle, was once a loyal supporter of the super mayor. But as the scandal unfolded, Carlisle turned on Henyard, accusing her of unethical behavior and predatory practices. Carlisle claims Henyard used her position to manipulate employees and vendors, funneling taxpayer money into personal projects and luxury expenses. For the past 2 years, Henyard has manipulated employees, vendors, and residents to increase her influence, all while projecting a false image of success. Carlisle said in a statement, "It's a damning accusation, putting Carlisle at odds with the woman who once trusted her." Carlisle's whistleblower claims didn't stop with vague accusations. She detailed how Henyard's administration spent extravagantly on first-class flights, 5-star hotels, and high-end dining, all on the taxpayer's dime. A single trip to Austin, Texas, reportedly cost over $20,000, with Henyard and her entourage running up bills at luxury hotels and steakhouses. And remarkably, Henyard allegedly spent $33,000 in one day on Amazon purchases. These expenses weren't just frowned upon. They've become central to the ongoing federal investigation into her misuse of funds.
Who would make a one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
Henyard's spending habits have been under scrutiny for months, with village trustees repeatedly demanding transparency. The village's general fund balance, which had a surplus of over $5 million in 2022, plummeted to a deficit of nearly $4 million by 2024. A staggering financial collapse many believe is directly linked to Henyard's reckless spending. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, hired to investigate Henyard's financial dealings, uncovered skyrocketing police costs during Henyard's tenure. In some cases, officers earned more in overtime than their base salaries. One officer, for instance, made over $100,000 in overtime within a single fiscal year, more than double his salary.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead, we have several officers that are riding around protecting America.
But here's where it gets really interesting. As the feds dig deeper into Henyard's finances, some are questioning whether this mess will take down more than just the mayor. With many of her allies already facing legal trouble, it's clear this scandal isn't just about one person. It involves a network of individuals who have worked together to enrich themselves at the village's expense. Now, Henyard is reportedly ready to point the finger at each and every one of them, if it means she can walk away without serving time.
What I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal and unethical at the same time.
In recent weeks, tensions between Henyard and the village board have reached a boiling point. At a board meeting, trustees voted to block her from using credit cards for unapproved purchases and imposed restrictions on spending for special events. These moves are seen as direct attempts to curb Henyard's influence and prevent her from continuing her lavish spending spree. However, Henyard isn't backing down. She has vetoed multiple board decisions and continues to push forward with her own agenda, even as the investigation tightens around her.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything. It'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
What about those who once supported Henyard but are now speaking out against her? Thornton Township trustee Chris Gonzalez, who previously stood by her side, has become vocal about his disapproval of her spending. He criticized her for approving events that weren't even in the township's budget, such as the infamous Taste of Thornton Township event, where Henyard shelled out $85,000 for a mini-concert featuring Air BC and rapper Jay Holiday. The event flopped, with barely anyone attending, yet Henyard still paid the performers top dollar for their 30-minute sets. Gonzalez's criticism is just one more indication that the cracks in Henyard's support system are widening.
Then by the Lansing Journal, trustee Chris Gonzalez said,
"Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily..."
As rumors swirl about Henyard's potential deal with the FBI, the question on everyone's mind is who will take the fall with her. If she decides to sell out her allies, it could mean the end of their careers and possibly their freedom. Will Freeman, Lacey, and Carlisle be dragged down with her, or will they too cut their own deals to avoid prison time? The clock is ticking, and as more details emerge about Henyard's secret negotiations, it's clear this story is far from over. What we do know is that the scandal has already rocked Dolton to its core, and it's only a matter of time before the next bombshell drops. One thing is for sure, Henyard's days of ruling the village with an iron fist are numbered. The only question now is, who's going down with her? But let's take a step back and examine how Tiffany Henyard ended up in this mess in the first place. Her downfall didn't happen overnight, although it feels like it's spiraling out of control now. Henyard's time in office has been marked by scandal after scandal, yet nothing compares to the level of corruption and chaos she unleashed on Dolton. Her so-called super mayor image was built on promises to clean up the town. However, it didn't take long for people to realize that Henyard wasn't cleaning up the village. She was cleaning out its bank accounts. Residents who once believed in her vision of a better Dolton are now witnessing their town crumble, both financially and morally. It's no wonder Henyard has earned the nickname Dolton Dictator, and the evidence is everywhere. Let's start with the basics, the misuse of funds. This is where Henyard's troubles began to snowball. She wasn't just careless with Dolton's finances, she was reckless. From the moment she took office, she treated the village's budget like her personal credit card, shelling out thousands of dollars on lavish trips, high-end restaurants, and luxury hotels.
That's right, John and Terrence. Tonight's meeting had a much different tone than what we've experienced previously at Dolton City Council meetings. Now, the room was full of Henyard supporters, and they wanted me to be sure to tell you that they applauded for her several times as she talked about the township being in a great place financially. Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard.
Remember that trip to Austin, Texas? It wasn't just a quick getaway. Henyard and her entourage spent over $20,000 on a 5-day stay, including more than $11,000 at the upscale Fairmont Austin Hotel. That's just one example. Similar indulgences were reported during other taxpayer-funded excursions to New York, Atlanta, and Portland. Village trustees attempted to rein in the spending spree, but Henyard wasn't having it. She vetoed their attempts to investigate her finances, while racking up over $67,000 in travel expenses in just 5 months.
This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
And it wasn't just the travel expenses. Henyard also blew $33,000 on Amazon in a single day. Let that sink in for a moment. $33,000 on Amazon. And to make matters worse, there are no clear records explaining what that money was spent on. It's no wonder the village's finances tanked under her leadership. By the time former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to conduct an independent investigation, Dolton was already in deep financial trouble. Lightfoot's preliminary report revealed that the village's general fund had plummeted from a healthy $5 million surplus to a staggering $3.5 million deficit.
Staffers also distributed a breakdown of the township's finances from 2017 to current, where Henyard's team says years ago they were in a deficit of more than $2 million. And now, today, under her administration, her team says there's a surplus of more than $6 million.
What's even more alarming is how Henyard's administration handled overtime pay for the police department. Under her watch, 2 officers were making more in overtime than their base salaries, with one officer raking in over $100,000 in overtime alone. And remember, this is a village with a population of just over 20,000 people. What could possibly justify this kind of spending? But financial mismanagement is only part of the story. Henyard's behavior throughout her time in office has been nothing short of outrageous. From the very beginning, it was clear she wasn't playing by the rules. Instead, she was making her own.
They'll turn up more and more information. They'll turn up more leads. They may turn up more witnesses. They may find a cooperator. They may find an informant, all which will benefit the investigation tremendously.
But based on what we know now, if you're Tiffany Henyard, how are you feeling?
I would be nervous.
Henyard has been accused of using her power to intimidate and retaliate against her opponents, silencing critics and consolidating control over Dolton and Thornton Township. One of the most notorious examples of her bullying tactics was when she ordered her personal police detail to follow residents who dared to speak out against her. This personal security force, funded by the very taxpayers she was bleeding dry, became an extension of her power. Former Dolton Police Chief Robert Collins even spoke out about how Henyard's constant demand for a large security detail crippled the department's ability to fight crime.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
Instead of having officers on the streets, they were following Henyard around, acting as her personal bodyguards. We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime, Collins said, but instead, they were riding around protecting the mayor. Henyard's heavy-handed approach didn't stop there. She also found ways to retaliate against her political enemies. Take the case of Valeria Stubbs, a former trustee and vocal critic of Henyard. Stubbs's home was shot at in the middle of the night, and although no one was harmed, she has repeatedly suggested that the attack was an act of intimidation orchestrated by Henyard.
Gardner says he's been harassed and his business raided and shut down by Dolton police. He believes because he refused to make a donation to a civic event sponsored by Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
And I talked to a couple of agents and I explained them what was going on. I gave them all my paperwork.
While there's no concrete evidence linking Henyard to the shooting, the incident certainly adds to the growing list of allegations against her. Henyard's behavior has become so brazen that she even filmed herself shoveling snow from Stubbs's driveway during a snowstorm, calling Stubbs her hater in a bizarre attempt to taunt her. It was a move that shocked many, but for those familiar with Henyard's antics, it was just another day in Dolton. The misuse of taxpayer dollars, manipulation of village resources, and abuse of power all point to a woman who believed she was untouchable, and for a while, it seemed like she was. But now, with the FBI breathing down her neck, Henyard's empire is crumbling.
Yeah, we've been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as Dolton Mayor and Thornton Township Supervisor. And now we've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges.
The federal subpoenas served to Dolton and Thornton Township are a clear indication that the feds aren't just sniffing around. They're closing in. These subpoenas reportedly seek records on everything from the village's finances to Henyard's political fund and even her cancer charity, which, by the way, has come under scrutiny for its own shady dealings. The Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. Initially intended to help cancer patients, the foundation is now shrouded in controversy. Not only has it failed to file the required financial disclosures with the state, but it also received a $10,000 donation from Thornton Township on the very day it was chartered.
The offer to our seniors, and they told us, your card doesn't work. And I stand in the fight because I want the boys and girls of the next generation to see what it looks like to come out of controversy and to come out of all the hatred unscathed. At the end of the day, God gives the test to his strongest soldiers.
And that's not all. Documents show that much of the foundation's expenses were charged to the village's credit card, with over $1,000 spent on hotels, meals, photographers, and even DJs. These revelations have led many to question whether the foundation was ever truly about charity or just another vehicle for Henyard to funnel money into her personal projects. As Henyard's legal troubles continue to mount, it's becoming increasingly clear that her time is running out.
All I can tell you is that I'm not the one on anything. That's the only thing I can tell you right now. So I'm just trying to answer to the...
So you're saying there's a foundation that's not registered, but it has nothing to do with you?
Correct. That's true.
Okay.
That's
so you're not aware of any of the work that they've done, money that they've raised, anything along those lines?
Correct.
The rumors of her deal with the FBI seem more plausible with each passing day, especially given how much she stands to lose if convicted of the charges she's facing. Henyard could be looking at serious prison time, which is why many believe she's ready to cut her losses and turn on her allies. But will her deal be enough to save her? More importantly, what will it mean for the rest of her inner circle? It's hard to imagine that Henyard will walk away from this without taking down a few people with her.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993. And she's the best we ever had.
You know, you're doing a lot of programs, good programs for the, the senior citizens, and you're doing a lot of programs for, people who are on a fixed budget. But what about the people, the blue-collar people who are still carrying this, this town?
There's already speculation that Keith Freeman, her former right-hand man, has been cooperating with the feds for months. If that's true, Henyard might not have as much leverage as she thinks. Freeman's involvement in the village's financial mismanagement has been well documented, but he's not the only one in Henyard's circle who's in trouble. Ella Lacey, the former deputy police chief, is another key figure who could find himself in the hot seat. Lacey's role in the overtime pay scandal has already raised red flags, and now that he's facing federal charges for bankruptcy fraud, it's only a matter of time before the feds start asking questions about his relationship with Henyard.
Y'all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign.
If he decides to flip and testify against Henyard, it could be the final nail in her coffin. Then there's Carmen Carlisle, the former ally turned whistleblower. Carlisle's decision to speak out against Henyard has already shaken up the local political scene. But if she has more dirt on the mayor, she could become a valuable asset to the federal investigation.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Carlisle's claims of unethical behavior and manipulation within the Henyard administration are damning, and her insider knowledge of how things operated behind the scenes could provide the feds with the evidence they need to bring Henyard down. As the investigation unfolds, it's clear that this isn't just about Tiffany Henyard anymore. It's about a web of corruption that has engulfed an entire village, leaving its residents bankrupt and disillusioned. The people of Dolton trusted Henyard to lead them, but instead, she led them into financial ruin.
We reached out to the FBI, which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dolton have received any subpoenas or been contacted by the FBI or any other law enforcement agency.
Now, as the FBI closes in, the question remains, how many more secrets will come to light before the saga is over? While the rumors of Henyard's secret deal continue to swirl, one thing is certain. This isn't the last we've heard of Dolton's supermayor. Whether she cuts a deal or goes down fighting, Tiffany Henyard's reign is coming to an end, and she won't be walking away unscathed. The only question left is who will be the next to fall. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing saga.